Prime Minister that's out of touch with the country, not Elon Musk.
So Musk should butt out or keep going?
Well, Musk isn't going to butt out.
Nigel Farage looked dead at the camera and said the Prime Minister is completely out of touch. Not a little slow. His words, Starmer's got his head stuck in the sand, a decade behind the public. Then it pivoted to Elon Musk, accused by Starmer of stoking division after the killing of Henry Novak. The host asked Farage straight up, should Musk back off? His answer? Musk isn't going anywhere. And honestly, why would he? Before we break this down, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. This story's moving fast. Let's get into it.
Nigel Farage, thank you for joining us tonight on GB News. Why didn't you condemn the violence when you had a chance at Prime Minister's questions on Wednesday?
Because I warned there'd be even more violence unless we took some action. Isn't it marvellous? 600 MPs all come together to say, let's unite. Let's unite. Let's condemn the far-right thugs. Let's condemn them. But let's do nothing. Let's do absolutely nothing.
Well, they are doing things. They've got an IOPC review, an independent officer of police
we'll
conduct
look forward
review.
to that.
Well,
look forward to that.
That review will, and it could be expanded wider, the government says, if it finds thematic issues. If DEI is a problem, as you suggest, then it might go further.
I don't suggest it. I know it.
How do you know it?
Well, the printed documents that have come from the police chiefs, specific instructions not to police people equally. I mean, can you even believe that there it is in black ink, in documents, handed down, police officers are trained on this. So, of course, I condemn all violence, I always have. But what they don't want to listen to in the Commons is that if you don't get rid of the perception, reality, both, of two-tier policing, and you finish up with lots and lots of angry, young, white, working-class men.
Was that fueled by your response?
Oh,
was that? Well, that's what your critics will say.
Of course they will, because they want to avoid the issue. I mean, they can't even admit we've got two-tier policing, but it's there in black and white. These are the instructions that the police officers are given.
They say it's clumsy wording, and equality or equity are interchangeable. Anyway, the wording is clumsy, and they'll look to redraft that document.
I'm really sorry, but I have had so many emails in the last 72 hours from serving and ex-police officers telling me about race training, how they're told, you've got white privilege. You are part of an institutionally racist organisation. Getting history lessons on South Asian history, black history, being lectured to. I mean, this has gone so... You could argue when we had the Macpherson report, etc., 25 years ago, you could argue that there were embedded still some old attitudes within the police. Let's take that as being true, for argument's sake. We have now gone so far the other way that we literally have anti-white discrimination going on in terms of hiring, promotion and activity on the ground. And when I did that big video that got all those millions of views, I was quite careful not to blame the police officers themselves too much because of the culture under which they're living. And a chap spoke to me on the phone yesterday. He said, you know, my biggest fear as a police officer isn't facing threats or violence on the streets. He said, we live with that. It's part of the job. He said, it's somebody making an accusation that I behaved in a way that was racially prejudiced, because that will lead to my immediate suspension, whether it's true or not.
And you think that may have stayed the support offered to Henry as he lay on the gravel, bleeding into the gravel and dying? We don't know what the officer said. We wait to hear what happened there. But the officer didn't. He said, words to the effect of, I don't believe you, mate, or whatever.
No, I mean, look. There are procedures for this.
Yeah.
You know, and if someone says they've been stabbed, you as a police officer have to physically check. They didn't do that. They handcuffed him, which is very interesting. What threat did he pose? So, you know, yes, I am critical, but in their heads is they were attending an incident where racist language had been used, and that was their biggest fear.
When you said cold rage on that 8 a.m., you called it an emergency broadcast to the nation. Your critics say that but there was a siren call to the violence.
So when George Floyd happened, we had Sadiq Khan and many others saying, yes, it's right to express fury and rage. And we had Churchill's statue being defaced, the cenotaph being vandalised, statues being torn from their plinths and thrown in docks in Bristol. I mean, rioting going on.
But do you worry your
hang on. Press, police officers being injured. They delighted in fury and rage. I was very careful. I defy any fair-minded person to watch that video and not be angry. Right? So I wanted to express it as cold rage. Not hot anger, not violent outburst. Cold rage means that you're boiling inside about it, but you're not in any way. And you've known me long enough.
Yeah.
I've never in 35 years of being in politics advocated people going outside the law. Not once.
And you know, with experience of what it can be like, because you have protection, of course, but you didn't condemn the violence when we had a chance in the House of Commons. Now, Labour say you failed the Prime Minister test because a Prime Minister unites the country. You didn't do that. Kemi Badenoch tried to.
No.
So did the Keir Starmer.
Sorry. The entire political class, well, in fact, 600 of them were against me yesterday, screaming, shouting. Interesting, actually, the look of fear on their faces.
Right.
Real fear.
Why fear?
Oh, because they know.
What do they know?
I'm more in touch with the great British public than they are on this. The great British public are a very fair-minded lot, and they absolutely want everybody that is here legally to be treated equally before the law. They're getting angrier and angrier. The divisiveness comes from two-tier policing.
So will it be enough then to reword that training manual to make it clearer that you simply got to just treat the person on the floor if they're being stabbed rather than handcuffing them, for example?
That would be a start, but only a start. As a result of DEI policies, as a result of positive discrimination, people are now being employed by the police, promoted within the police, not on their abilities, but on whether they're filling the right number of quotas. And if you do that, you necessarily lower the level of quality of policing. And what we are demanding as a party is that DEI is gotten rid of. Everybody is treated equally and fairly, and promotion comes on merit. And you know, take Hampshire. I mean, Southampton was where this appalling murder happened. In 2024, whilst Priti Patel was a Conservative Home Secretary, there was published the Hampshire and Isle of Wight race report. And through that, a means of literally indoctrinating every police officer that to be accused of racism is worse than being accused of being negligent at doing your duty as a police officer. This all has to go.
And that's the two-tier police you're describing.
Yes.
Kemi Badenoch has met with the family. The Prime Minister is meeting them today. Have you met with them? Have you reached out to them?
No, I mean, the sister reposted some of generic stuff, and the mother, we are going to meet. I don't know when, but we have agreed to meet.
Because what critics say is you're ignoring the view of the father, Mark Novak, and he was pretty clear. He didn't want this to become a divisive issue. He didn't want this to be an issue for any kind of drama, any kind of division. He said, we want to see Henry's heartbreaking story to make the change for the better. We don't want his death to...
the change for the better.
But he goes on, we don't want his death to be used to create further division, hatred or tension. We want his story to make our streets safer for everyone. That's not what you're helping happen.
There will be further division. Everything he doesn't want to happen will happen if we don't change things. I don't know a single person... Do you know what, Chris? I don't know a single person who hasn't lost a child, whether it's through illness or murder or a drowning accident or whatever. I don't know a single parent who's been through those tragedies who would not like to see something done to stop it happening to others.
And you're a father, and how were you affected as a father? For me, when you send your children away to university, you expect the police to look after them. That's part of the deal you do in your head. But to see the way the police casually described Henry as he lay dying was absolutely shocking. I think that's also part of what struck people. On
a human level, I mean, when he heard the blaring sirens, he must have thought, thank goodness, help's at hand.
Yeah.
And he got the opposite. I think, you asked me as a father, I think all of us are more fearful of our late teenage kids going out and having fun, whether it's going to a concert, going to the pub, whatever it is, I think we're all more fearful for our kids going for a night out in our cities now than we've ever been. I'm afraid, and I really, really do. But I get back to the core point that I believe in my 35 years of being involved in current affairs and politics, I have never seen a time when our political leaders and most of our mainstream media have been more out of touch on their reflection of an incident than they've been over the course of the last 3 days. And I think just to say we must come together, just to say we'll crack down hard on the far right, what you have to do is provide solutions. And the only solution here is genuine radical change to a perverse agenda that has now swung a pendulum from what may well have been a problem too far in the other direction. And that is what I'm seeking. And if this goes on through the summer with more riots and more bad behaviour, it's not me inciting it, I want it stopped.
Will you call it out? The
I will
violence?
always call it out. But more important than calling out this violence is to try and prevent more of it.
And Nigel Farage, the Prime Minister Keir Starmer has accused Elon Musk of trying to whip up division following the murder of Henry Novak because of his tweeting and so forth about the situation in his country. What's your take on that?
The Prime Minister will accuse anyone that disagrees with his out of touch, out of date, woke agenda of division, of racism, of goodness knows what. We have a Prime Minister with his head firmly stuck in the sand who is a decade behind where public opinion has become on many, many things. And Mr. Musk, I mean, of course, he expresses things in a certain way, and we know that, and that's who he is, but it's the Prime Minister that's out of touch with the country, not Elon Musk.
So Musk should butt out or keep going?
Well, Musk isn't going to butt out. You know, he owns X. There are, 15 million British people on X. He is not going to butt out. It's as simple as that. But the Prime Minister, the whole of the front bench, they're out of touch with the country on this, I promise you.
So here's where it lands. A Prime Minister calling his critics racist and divisive. Farage firing back that it's Starmer who's lost the room, not Musk. And on the riots? Farage didn't dodge it. He said he'll call out the violence, but preventing it matters more than condemning it after the fact. Agree or not, that's the line he's drawing. This isn't cooling down anytime soon, not with Musk still posting to millions, and not with tensions this high. Drop your take in the comments. Is Farage right or just loud? We'll keep watching this one. See you next time.